too good,
Understood.
because I'm kind of getting over some sort of virus right now. I don't know what kind it is. On day 3 of it, coming out of it, so that's good. But here we go. Excited to get this guy on today. Been wanting to get him on for a long time. Part of the my class NAPS coaching staff. Navy football 04 nose guard, the anchor. Navy
05.
05 class.
Yeah.
Season of 04. Got to call that out because some people don't recognize that. A class that, was basically the meat and potatoes of Navy turnaround in the mid 2000s. Babatunde William Akingbemi, also known as Bemi or Tunde, is an IT strategy consultant, an entrepreneur based in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. You come from the streets of Los Angeles and Rialto, California, 56 miles east of LA.
More like 30, 36.
30. Well, I use Google Maps, I guess. I don't know. Okay. I had to look that up because I wanted to tie in some kind of like LA, street type of thing into it, but I kind of just stopped there. Dudes held pivotal roles in the military and intelligence sectors. During your military service, you're the weapons officer and Maine 1 division officer aboard the USS Nashville, LPD 13. Then the damage control assistant on board the USS Layson, DDG Layson. Feel free to correct me throughout this whole thing. Transition to OPSO with the National Security Agency, NSA. Your current role with the Department of Treasury, IRS, where he serves as an IT delivery manager. Also leads his own consulting firm, as previously mentioned, called Atlas Trident Consulting. So that's cool. We're going to get into that one. Got a passion for fitness, travel, do-it-yourself projects, and growing the business. Throughout your career, a couple of themes, emphasizing understanding one's why. And that pops up in the memories too. And maintaining focus amidst the challenges. And maybe some mental toughness. I don't know. We'll see. So there's an intro for Bemi.
Hey, thanks, Tony.
I'm going to jump into some memories. So I got quite a few memories. I got 4 from my class era. 1 that just went to NAPS only, which was new, which was cool. Ose Asante, episode number 10. He said, I specifically remember him telling me about the Fat Boy Trot or the Fat Boy Shuffle for those death runs we had to do during NDOT. Stood out to him.
Okay.
Cameron Marshall, episode 1 and episode 54, he said, remind you that you told him that he looked scared on day 1 of pads at NAPS. He was right, but I still wanted to punch him in the mouth. He would have slapped me if I tried to. Next one, Jordan Stevens, episode number 8. He said, Akingbemi was always an example what we thought we could be, what we could become as D linemen at NAPS. We're never going to be as strong as him. He was bigger than us. He looked like a guy who could have played wherever he wanted to. He was a physical specimen. He made us believe that we could hang with anybody. He never accepted any other excuse or explanation. Any excuse or explanation. Because he thought that we could be good. We actually thought we might be. In that way, he was a big inspiration for us. He was also a bit of an asshole when he had to be. And he ate tuna right out of the can.
Yeah, so, Jordan, man. You guys, man. Love you guys, man. Yeah.
It's a good circle. Next one, Scott Yingling. This is the guy that went to NAPS and then decided to move, go a different way. But Scott Yingling at NAPS, he used to make the D-line run so much before practice. One time, a guy stopped and laid down to rest across some tackling dummies as a makeshift bed, and you flipped out. I don't know if you remember that one. So, all right. now we get into your class era. We got 1, 2, 3, and then the fourth one is the one from episode 77. Already mentioned all those memories. I was going to share a video shot of that. Maybe I will, maybe not. Did you get to watch the Lane Jackson part of that?
I didn't watch it. I heard it though.
Oh,
My dude, man. Yeah.
There you go. All right, as long as you heard it. All right. So Bobby Mack, episode 39, also a coach with you at Naps. He said, an anchor of the 3-4, a linebacker's dream. King of opinionated arguments with Kyle Eckel. He said that was the highlight of Mr. G's day. Unparalleled strength of a human being. Next one, Levon Kelly. So he was another Navy prep school coach during the time y'all played together, senior class. Went up there to coach at Naps, and hopeful a future episode guest. So we'll see. He said, you were all about the skincare in school.
Thanks.
He said he would have the audacity to ask his teammates to rub cocoa butter on his back. LOL. Crazy, but he was just comfortable enough with those that he went to battle with on the field that he would do that. He was also always there to give you another perspective on things. He made sure to make you think about your ideas from every angle. So kind of touches on something I hit on the intro. Last one, Jeremy Chase. So it was cool getting some feedback from him. It's the first time I've gotten that. I think that's the first time I've actually reached out to him, but I want to get him on here too. He said, I called him Big Willie. He said, ask him to stop slouching.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but.
Long legs, short torso. I'm tall in
okay.
person, but I'm short when I'm sitting down. You couldn't tell.
I got you. He said, Tunde Jeff Vanek. Let's say that right? Vanek?
Yeah, Jeff Vanek, yeah.
Okay. And I competed with each other and brought out the best in each other's games. It was essentially a round robin of who could top the other's performance each week. That's no unknown story to our classes as well. You're always fighting, with, but a little bit against each other to try and get that spot. His senior year, he was that dude. As Lane stated in the podcast, the defense centered around him. Lane also discussed PJ's looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane comment. And he said, I thought Bemi might have killed PJ after that. But the effect on Bemi after that was undeniable. An absolute force who was on a mission. And I was truly blessed to be the D-line dog lining up next to him. And I'll always cherish those days lining up next to him. I made a bunch of big goal line, short yardage plays his senior year, my junior year, and all of them were set up by Tunde stonewalling, double or triple teaming people to allow me to get free or get a one-on-one. So that's the memory section. And I'm going to try to tie this one in real quick, see if I can make it work. I messed up on this with Lane, so let me see if I can not screw this one up with you.
Tunde was another one.
I missed a memory.
Go ahead.
Speaking of him, he's coming up on an episode.
Yes.
So you have to shoot me some memories, and
I'll give you some. I'll give you some right now.
Go for it.
Oh man.
You might check off this memory I was about to throw out there. So.
He was so strong. He was the strongest dude I have ever seen, right? And
I believe it.
At Naps, we go and we're doing bench, and I was good bencher. So I was competing with him for I was trying to be the best bencher on the team, and he was the other guy, and we put up 315. I put it up 10 times. Goodness. And then he gets up there and he puts on 315 and he does it 10 times. And they're like, oh, all right, well, you guys tied. I'm like, no, we didn't tie. Did you see what he
There are no
basically,
ties.
he had never lifted before. Like he didn't know how to lift. So he like grabs the bar almost like for the first time. It wasn't the first time, but like he grabs the bar at like where he puts his wrist like almost like where his nipples are. Like it's like a
So
close grip. He close gripped 315 10 times. Like
goodness.
easy. And
Yeah.
then once he figured out how to lift, dude, he was so strong.
Yeah. Darius Terry was our class guy like that. And he was the
Yeah,
smallest guy on the team.
it was incredible. But anyway, um, Tunde. So going on, once Tunde learned, he used to, and then me and TJ and all the linebackers, we're all skinny and we're trying to get the bet. We got the best technique, right, to try to maximize the weight that we can get up, and we're power cleaning. I don't remember what it was, like three something, but and we look over and you just see Tunde, no technique, doing the same weight we're doing, but he's just like reverse curling it. Like a power clean.
Yep.
He just like stands up, like all slow, and just go wah, like with
Yeah.
315.
Muscles it.
I remember rooming with him. When I was in the teams in Virginia Beach, I roomed with him for like a year or something. Um, and he'd come back one day. So I just got done lifting. I'm like, oh yeah, how much you lift? It's like, well, these jokers were messing around. I had to show them what's up. I'm like, well, what'd you lift? He said, I just put on 4 plates. How many times you do it? He's like, I stopped at 10. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. After like 2 years of not working out,
Yeah.
he was a
He has
monster.
that. Yeah. He has that
And then
strength.
and then really he finally, I was, it sounds stupid to say you're proud of him, but I really was. But he really put it all together his senior year. Um,
Yeah.
he was kind of he was good, but not really good before that. But his senior year, and I think you heard the story already. I think you already heard it on here. But the whole thing with Coach Johnson in the paper, like said, looks like Tarzan plays like Jane one day, and then he Tunde read that,
Uh-oh.
and he all we knew is that he like there was like a whiteboard in the weight room, and there was a hole in it. Like you just heard him scream and yell, and then punch a hole through it, and we're like, oh, he must have read the article.
Nice.
And apparently he had it out with PJ, but he put it all together after that article.
Yeah.
He was a changed man.
There's something to that whole PJ leadership style that
Yeah,
works
but
sometimes.
Tunde was single-handedly the reason why our defense worked. Like,
Nice.
we were
Yeah.
2-4,
So
right? He anchored the whole thing.
yes. So the nose tackle for the group that doesn't know, like uh, who we're talking about is Babatunde Akingbemi.
Sorry,
We
yeah,
call him Bemi, Coach Bemi. I think y'all call him Tunde.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, the guy was an anchor in that whole 3-4 scheme that we ran the whole time we were there. You got to have a solid nose. The nose makes the
yeah.
defense. Yeah, it was good. Really enjoyed that one with Lane, and when he brought that one up, I just thought I had to throw it in here. So, but yeah, there's the memories, and here's where I turn it over to you to tell us the Bimmy story.
I'm not certain where to start. Are we starting from?
You should start wherever you want to. I like going back as far as you want to go.
Ah, man, I think it's really important to have context. Like almost 18 years ago. So it's like, man, you're old. Like let's revisionist history, right? So like you mentioned, first generation Nigerian American, born in Los Angeles. Uh, born in Los Angeles. Um, just I don't even know where to start here. All right, let's do this. First generation Nigerian American, uh, parents, immigrants, literally came here on academic scholarships, and it's all this we've come this far, you will be successful type mentality. And so, um, you know, education is everything. Legitimate student athlete, like anything less than A, you're not playing sports.
Yeah.
And so I was always, school, then sports. Sports was my outlet because, if I didn't do well, I couldn't leave the house type situation. Uh, I was a soccer and basketball player. I didn't really start playing football till like junior high, 8th grade. In fact, I had to sneak to play football.
Really?
Yeah, football, our football Americano, as they would say in Espanol, but it's the same globally, right? Like soccer is known as football. So I played soccer, I played basketball. Being someone from the inner city, basketball, football were the sports. So I was an outlier for not having played football. And I remember one of my soccer coaches, also PE coach and assistant coach on the football team, was like, "Hey, I think football would be good for you. Like, why don't you come out there and give it a shot?" And I just think the foundational movements and endurance, and my dad was very big, being a military brat. He raised us like military brats into like the calisthenics, daily, and all this other stuff. So when I got on the field, I just transitioned pretty easily, and I liked it. So I just continued to.
Did you have that size in high school too?
This is how I looked in high school.
Okay. All right. So that's how they're like, yep, that guy, football, go.
Yeah.
All right.
And so, just the opportunity to play was like, all right, cool. Like I get a chance to do this. The Naval Academy came right around. So like high school, student. That's like third in my class. And my parents were like, oh, you're going here, you're going there. I had an older brother who was a big time basketball player, ABCD Adidas camp, all this other stuff. Second in his class type. And West Point tried to recruit him, UCLA tried to recruit him. But my parents were like, no, like you're not playing sports. And that's probably because my dad, although he was a principal at his firm, he was an adjunct professor. And back then you didn't get full rides. Your scholarships were athletic based off performance. Same thing academically. And so he was really like, if you mess up and you lose your scholarship, what are you gonna do? And so they kind of messed up with him. And so, given the 2.5-year age difference between the two of us, when football came around with me and Stanford and Harvard, Dartmouth, Oregon and all of the schools started coming, they had learned, right? But my dad was really big on, all right, cool, you can play football as long as you go to Naval Academy. And so that was our deal.
Gotcha. So yeah, I had that. I was like, what took you to the Naval Academy versus anywhere else? So now you just answered that.
And so also, my dad was a military brat. My name, Babatunde, means father has come. And so it's a customary name given to the firstborn after the death of an elder in the Yoruba Nigerian culture. And so shortly after my grandfather passed, I was born. And it was like, then the Naval Academy came, and it was like, this is a calling,
Nice.
And so they were pushing for it. On the West Coast, I knew about it, but I didn't have as much, insight into what the Naval Academy was. And so, I pushed against it. I had some teammates who went to SC and some big schools, and I was like, I'm going to be that guy. But, God's good, man. Things just worked out. And then I ended up going to NAPS because I didn't necessarily want to go to the Academy. I'm sure a lot of students.
Hey, it's a red shirt year.
Yeah, right. And then, it all just worked out. I got to NAPS. I met Vaughn and Lane and TJ. Bobby was there as well, but I think it was like a year before me, but he got hurt. Reggie Silly. Man, like the list goes on. And I'm really grateful I met those guys because like we formed a brotherhood, and I think if it wasn't for them, I would have left. I'm certain I would. So
I just listened to a Navy podcast episode or Navy football podcast episode with Paul Johnson on it. And that's one thing he brought up is like, I never really had to worry about guys leaving because they had such a tight bond with each other. It was like a player led thing. To where like other places may be a little bit different. So for sure. You still keep in touch with those guys?
Not as well as I want to. Some of them, they live in the area, and we meet up, Army Navy games, or just Navy games, or just, I'm godfather to Eric Roberts, our star running backs kids, and Reggie's kids.
Nice.
So,
another one of the Naps coaches.
Huh? Yeah. Eric Roberts. We reach out to each other, talk to each other on some group chat or something like that. But
it's good.
More so the games, like the big games, and when you see them, it's like, we're young adults again. Just
didn't miss a beat.
Never missed a beat. So it's great.
Good stuff. Cool. All right. So you get to Navy. We finally figured out what took you there. What about your experience there? How'd that go for you? Because when I go through these, everyone's experience is a little bit different. So I just want to get your take on that whole Naval Academy experience.
I gotta say, I'll leave with the same thing I told you guys. I would tell Jordan and Nichek and Yingling and all those guys the same thing. Like, even back then, know your why. Because the Navy, I would say, a strong sense of service. But I believe the Naval Academy was a great place to be from. It wasn't necessarily a great place to be at. And I think that people have to understand like the context of it, right? So for me, going to NAPS was, kind of an eye opener, but not necessarily, right? I was raised like a military brat. So the physical and mental requirements was just how I was raised. So getting there wasn't necessarily, and being able to transition into that environment wasn't challenging. I think it was more so just the culture, not necessarily the expectations, right? It's the foremost leadership laboratory in the country, right? And so in training leaders, you have peers, people who are a year or two older than you, who may have never experienced people from different demographics, or maybe not even of the same mental or physical aptitude as you, or proudness as you, who are trying to lead you, and they've never led before. And so understanding that, and give people grace for that was something I can do now. But back then it was like, what is this?
Yeah.
So football naps was the first time I ever got injured. I tore a ligament in my foot. I think it was like two-thirds of the season, two-thirds of the way into the season. And it was also very interesting because I went to a pretty good high school. I had some good coaches. We had a nice program. And so I had a lot of like coaching and etc. But when I got to Navy, we were undersized. And so being recruited as outside linebacker, rush end, 245, now playing defensive end legitimately, because it's the needs of the team. I'm all about the team concept. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
So I was recruited as a linebacker, rush end, got there, immediately playing defensive end, and I was on kickoff. And it's like, all right, cool.
That's kind of not normal, defensive end on kickoff.
I mean, I thought I was somewhat fast, right? But I was fast at 245, between 235 and 250. I was fast back then. I was fast.
Yeah, I mean,
much faster.
I remember when I was 235 there at the end of naps, and I couldn't run for squat.
So, I mean, it is what it is. But that's really where I formed those connections. Reginald Seeley, Eric Roberts, Lane Jackson, Bobby McLaren, Levon, some of the guys at didn't necessarily transition to the Naval Academy either for academic or personal reasons, physical, whatever.
Yeah.
Stephen Bright, he eventually got to Naval Academy and then left. It was just a bunch of guys, and we had a really solid unit. I don't even think we lost. Maybe we lost one game there. But it was a strong unit, and I was just happy to be a part of the team, man. Like, we looked out for each other.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's kind of hard to focus on how it was as a midshipman now, as I'm 41 years old with a 10-year-old son, and I've coached a little bit, I've mentored some kids, and so it's like, okay, you have revisionist history, but you got to put things in context, because I went from a pretty good high school program and being recruited by top 25 teams and Ivy League schools to going to a team that was like 100th in the nation, right? And it was like, ugh,
Mm-hmm.
And then we get there, and this is where you have to give people grace. You have the brigade of midshipmen having to walk a little bit over a mile, to the stadium every Saturday, and as you know, they have like one day free depending on what class you're in.
Yep.
To obligate their time to stand, march over, then perform a parade, then stand.
Mandatory fun. Yeah.
Yeah, to support a losing team. And so, some of us were able to kind of transition to the practice with the varsity towards the end of the freshman year. I was fortunate to be one of those guys. And during plebe summer, I kind of got pulled out a few times for practice and stuff like that. And so the perception of football players and the respect or a social experience with the brigade was not friendly, right?
Because that was kind of a change, right?
Yeah, it was definitely a change.
Yeah.
And my experience with NAPS, and then now I'm pretty much going through another boot camp, it was like, I already know all this stuff. Why am I going through this stuff?
Yeah.
And it was like, here we go again, and I'm not a small person. So, and I wasn't
able to stood
run.
out, so you got that extra attention, right?
Extra attention.
Oh, you're a football player.
Yeah, and I think there were some times where I had to do extra PT because they were like, it's not really getting to him. And so growing up, like when we would get in trouble, my dad used to put us in front leaning rest, and getting in trouble was like, you gotta B- on a quiz,
After you use that one.
Yeah, we in front leaning rest for like 45 minutes.
Goodness.
We would go for like runs and stuff. So when I got
that's where that strength came from.
Yeah, right. So I get to Naval Academy, I'm like, I've been doing this my entire life. Like, okay, and I think that kind of like rubbed people the wrong way because it wasn't really hurting me, And I think one thing I like about the Navy and most armed services is they try to break you down to destroy those bad habits. So when the real world situations occur, you respond how you were trained. There are some things I definitely need help on, right? You're always growing, but I think that when it came to understanding chain of command, respect, doing what's right all the time, making sure you're physically, mentally tough, I was like, okay, like I was raised this way. Now you're just trying to do it because you can. So that's that. But football was very interesting for me. I loved it. But like I said, when you put things in context, it's like the brigade of midshipmen didn't necessarily care for football players. And then 9/11 happened. And it was like, wow, like we are really preparing to go to war. And,
I just got goosebumps.
Everything just changed.
Yeah.
It was like, like, this is how it is. And this is what it is. And, faith, family, and service are my pillars. And they're literally tatted on my body. And it was like, I'm about to go here and do this, Freshman year was funny because it was pretty much a good old boy network back then. I mean, I would sugarcoat it for you guys, but then everyone who knows me would know that wouldn't be me. So I'm just gonna tell it how give my experience.
Shame
Right.
what?
We had some guys on our squad and the guys in 04 and some guys sprinkled throughout the team in the senior classes that I definitely think were good athletes, good football players, and should have been on the field. But it was a good boy network. There were a lot of legacy players on there and people who had some sort of connection or whatever. And then it was sort of this like upperclassmen seniority on the field type mentality. And so like our NAPS class, we were competing for spots. We get there freshman year and we would dominate some of these guys who were playing against the Notre Dames and the Vanderbilts. And we're just like, yo, how are they here? Like, what is going on? And
Yeah.
I'm not speaking bad against the brotherhood. Right.
Yeah. Understood.
But I think just at the time, it wasn't set up for us to be successful in the arena that we were competing in. And
there was an episode of, I want to say maybe Josh Smith. One of the guys was talking about how he just loved scout team, or just being able to tee off and, and kind of do that and step up and where the opportunity existed, put your foot in the door.
And so when, Coach Johnson came about, things changed. And I'm grateful for him because it was a catalyst that turned our team around, and some people have mentioned PJ and I didn't really get along. I think his coaching style was what was needed for the team, for the majority of the team. But I think for some of the players who had opportunities to play at, the top 25 school and showed up, his coaching style didn't really resonate. And I'll speak for myself. It didn't resonate with me. Right.
Yeah.
So, it was more of a like, we were underdogs, but it was more of an underdog mentality, but he was promoting and you got to do everything right because you should, pretty much Rudy. Right. And I'm like, okay, I'm not Rudy,
Gotcha.
And so like, that whole in your face, grab you, yoke you up type stuff. I'm like, yo, don't touch me. Right.
Yeah.
And so,
I gotcha.
the coach was like, Coach Green, Coach Speed. Like for me, they took interest in like not only developing me as a player, but as to grow as a man, to transition as a man. And so,
Gotcha.
and then when we got to the part where I was learned a lot at the Naval Academy. And so I'll start with football, right? Because without football, I honestly would have left, I learned how to play nose guard. Like I said, I was a linebacker. I was the end. And, West Coast offense. I usually play against West Coast offenses. I'm from California. So we're throwing the ball,
spread it out. Yeah.
days, you're pass rushing. And so you go from going against a tight end, a tackle, maybe being chipped by a tight end, to now being in front of the center, usually getting double teamed by a guard or both guards.
Yeah.
And so I think it was like, I can remember when I was like, yo, I'm going to do this and I need to figure this out, because I was getting slammed in the hall, and Gunny Baker, Master Gunnery Sergeant Baker, man, I love that dude.
I heard stories about him.
Man, my freshman year, I was always a good student. That was never an issue. But I just kept getting in like dumb trouble. Like he was 2 minutes tardy, or just he looked at me the wrong way. Just stupid stuff. You know how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And Master Gunnery Sergeant Baker and Captain / Coach Speed, they were just like, all right, we're moving you out of this company. And got moved out of my company beginning of second class year.
I think the same thing happened to Jordan Stevens.
Yeah, and that's when everything changed for me, right? Okay. Because I was actually able to be a legitimate student athlete. I didn't have to do all the extra crap and But I could remember just always getting into it with offensive coaches. And some of the guys remember this. I thought I would, revisionist history. So hopefully somebody can refute it. But we would do all these fourth quarter drills and, hashes and all those other things. And I was usually one of the guys who finished first, finished the physical parts relatively at the top. But I always somehow didn't do it right. And so we had to do it again because of me. In retrospect, I realized that was a tool that was used to motivate the team.
Yeah. At the time, you probably used that tool at Naps too. As a coach?
No,
you didn't? Oh, okay.
No, I really tried to get to know each player and see what their strengths were. Yeah. But you got to understand, but in retrospect, I can see like the level of urgency that we had to win. And we had to the coaches had to cater to the majority demographic. And that's what it is, right? There was a culture that we need to have to be successful. And I'm so grateful for that culture. Right.
Gotcha.
But yeah. And so, and going through some of those things as a young man, you're just like, I did it right. I think I did exceptionally well, but somehow I didn't do it right enough. And now everybody else has to run. That's interesting. I think it just kind of developed even more mental toughness. But there was one incident two incidents I can remember where it was like a huge turning point for me. One was, I think Kevin Schwinn had got hurt. And so I wasn't really coming in on passing down against passing teams. I am now playing D tackle nose guard. And we played against Rutgers. They had Ray Rice. They had an All-American guard, All-American center. I got my ass whipped. And I've never got my ass whipped before. Right? Whether it's physically fighting or on the football field. After that first quarter, I wasn't able to shoot the gaps. They were double teaming. And trust me, if they didn't hear the whistle, they were moving their fucking feet.
Yeah.
And I separated my shoulder on my right side and tore my labrum on my left. I will never forget that game. That was junior year. Mind you, senior year, I made a point. We destroyed them senior game, and that's what we wanted for senior game. I said, I fucking wanted Rutgers.
Yeah.
I don't think I played the second half because it was senior game, and I wanted my teammates to get some playing time. But man, we destroyed them. It was like 50 something before the half, 50 to like 7 or some shit.
Yeah.
Before the half was up, before the halftime. But just remember Ray Rice was back in the backfield, and every time I saw him, if I was about to make a play, I was going in another direction.
Yeah.
And so that summer, I never really went home because we just had that culture like you're going to stay here and work out the whole summer and get right. But I went home for like a week and a half, and I started working out with some of the guys, man, SC, and some of the guys I went to college with. And I learned a lot about hand placement and how to play inside. And not to say our coaches weren't great, but I just it got me mentally and physically, like technique wise, and things just changed.
Different perspective.
Yeah. And then, mentioned before, someone mentioned as well, the whole looks like Tarzan plays like Jane. That to me was just kind of insulting, if I'm being honest with you, because it was like, I've changed positions like 3 times. And It is what it is. But I think I understand why, right? I think it was more of a motivating tool.
Yeah, light a fire. Yeah.
Right. It really motivated me. It's just saying, I don't like you anyway, right? But I'm not playing for you, right?
There you go. Shamwow.
I'm not playing for you. It's the guys that I'm in the arena with. It's the guys that, I'm praying with. This is what it's about. So like, let's get to it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You mentioned coach, captain. I guess he was your military liaison guy, Captain Speed, when you were playing, but then became the head coach at Naps my year when you were coaching. How was it like working for him?
He's an awesome man. Awesome coach, dude. He's just a all around good person. I think that he had a mindset of like teaching you, right? He had more of a like, this is what you did wrong. This is how you do it right. And it was just very motivational and humble. Like, I'm grateful for him. He's also one of the reasons why I was able to get out of that company I was in. So,
I mean, that position as the liaison officer rep for the football team is a critical one, I think.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing that he was there for that, for sure. Let's see. I got to ask this one because I always do, but do you have a good coach story? You already probably hit on a few, maybe not. I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
Oh man.
Could be funny.
I don't know. I think one thing I kind of have some like, not necessarily like, well, everybody knows this story, man. Lane kind of alluded to it, but he didn't give you context. I got a full body cramp right before the 2 days, well, technically 3 days for me before senior year. So as I mentioned before, so I went home junior year. I went home for a little bit. I went home like the first 7 days after end of I can't remember this. After school's over. Then we had the whole summer seminar, that stuff.
Yeah, cruises and all that.
Cruises. So after that, I came back and I was there. From summer seminar on, I was just there. Like I was working out every day. Coach Brass had his program. We had unofficial workouts, and I was just like, man, this is my last year, man. We get into it. Like it is what we're leaving it all out here. I had some aspirations to play at the next level, but most than anything, man, I just love getting work with my boys, man. Like it was like we gonna do this. And so we came back, I don't know if you guys had to run 300-yard shuttle, but we did.
Yep.
And that's one of the things, like that was if you pass, you're good. If not, you have extra workouts. And so I always passed 300-yard shuttle. Never once did I fail. In fact, I was beating a lot of linebackers, if we're being honest here.
Yeah.
And somehow, they run like groups of like 6 to 10. I think the only person who beat me in my group was Jeremy Chase beat me by like a step,
Yeah.
But somehow I didn't pass. And I knew what it was. They told me like, you come off the field too often. And I think me coming off the field was more so like, if I didn't feel 100%, I'm coming off. Because I was so fearful of letting my boys down that I wasn't going to try to suck it up on the field if I didn't feel 100%.
Yeah.
But I think they took that as an opportunity to get me in shape for the season. I don't know. Everyone knew I passed, right? But certain players like Eric Roberts didn't pass either. And E-Rob was in phenomenal shape. Yeah. And he was our go-to,
dude had trunks for legs. Yeah.
And so we just had to do extra running every morning. Well, I think it was like the fourth practice of like 2-a-days. And so you wake up, for those who had to do extra running, I think it was like 6:30 or 7 or something like that. And then you're out there and you're just doing PT. And you get like an hour, you get an hour to shower, eat lunch, go to tape, and then you got your first practice. And we practiced. We weren't like going through walkthroughs. Like we were hitting each other. Like practices were way harder than games.
Yep.
Like we were giving each other work. Like I love you, but if I get opportunity to play, I'm playing. So
Yep.
I'm gonna
The
show
more
you.
sweat and practice, the less blood and battle type of thing.
Facts. And that was the mentality we had. And so, like a typical idiot at the time, I decided that I was going to, after doing I think it was like day 4 or whatever, instead of going to get something to eat, I had a little Naval Academy juice box. I drank one of those raspberry teas, which now I know is a dehydrant.
Yeah.
So not only was I working out crazy in the morning, but then I drank something else to further dehydrate me. Took a nap in my locker, well, on the floor of my locker. I couldn't fit my locker on the floor. And then we didn't have video that day. So I'm literally just laying there. And so Pierre Moss and Sean Macklin were like, hey, like, what are you doing, bro? Like, we're about to late for practice. Like, what you doing? I'm like, what do you mean about to practice? Like, we didn't have tape. So I'm like, damn it. So I still my hats on. Didn't eat breakfast. Didn't hydrate, nothing. We're like on Pier 20 or something, and we start doing full scrimmage. And I made like a play or two before that. And so I'm hyped. But then another play happens, and I got a cramp in my left leg. I'm like, damn. I'm running to the ball, and I just like a sniper hit me. And I was like, man.
Hamstring too?
Hamstring. I was like, damn it. So, we have this thing, like, we don't lay on the field. Like, so I'm trying to hop off. Left leg got cramped, trying to hop off on my right. Right goes.
Yep.
So I fall forward, I roll over my back, and I'm like trying to like stretch because I just couldn't move. But then I started trying to stretch, and my stomach and my neck go.
Oh, full body.
Happened everywhere. And I'm fucking screaming because I've never experienced anything like this before. And I'm just like heart's pounding like crazy. I'm like, Doc Fair comes out there, with the meat wagon, and he's like, yo, like, I'm like, yo, what's going on? I'm like, I pull my toe. Like, I'm trying to like stretch. And so they're like, I think, they're like, we thought you broke your leg or something. And I was like, nah. And then they're like, what's going on? I'm like, I'm cramping everywhere. They're like, what the fuck? They're like, Coach, I was like, what? What the fuck? Move the ball.
Yeah, that was one of his notorious ones. He's like, move the ball, keep going.
And so, it was just funny because I woke up in the training room to an IV, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh shit. And it was just so funny because it was like a joke for the longest time. In fact, usually every time I get around the guys, it's like, pull my toe,
Pull my toe. Nice.
And so it's that. And the other, Coach Green, I remember one that summer too. They had 7-on-7. What's a nose guard going to do on a 7-on-7, right? So there were like this play called double bullets where I drop back in coverage and I just kind of do that, or run wave drills when they were running a 7-on-7. After that, I just get my helmet, go into the shoot and just work on technique. And I remember Coach Green just like, taking time, coming out of his car and kind of give me that one-on-one. And I'm grateful for that. Grateful for that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. So let's talk about transition. You go from Naval Academy, do the football thing. Or is there anything else there you want to cover before jumping into transition to service?
Yeah. So I think when I met you guys, right, I think, I think I told you before, but some of those before, like one of my biggest goals well, let me take a step back. When I started, like, hanging out with some of the guys we kind of played against, like Jeff Fain, who played for Notre Dame, and kind of just seeing those guys in some different situations, I was like, and that's what I try to teach you. I kept trying to, like, instill in you guys. A lot of these guys, yeah, they're pretty good athletes, but the only difference between them and us was they just had more of them, right? And so we do struggle recruiting because we're not going to school to play football. Like, our goal is to serve the country and become leaders. And a lot of them, their goal is to go there and, play football. And if I happen to get education, well, great. If they get hurt, they got another 5-star, 4-star athlete to come off and back them up. We necessarily didn't have that level of depth. But one thing we had that they didn't have was we had a lot of heart, we had a lot of determination, mental toughness. And you were gonna, if you played, you played almost every play. And so getting out there and competing against those guys and some of these drills, I'm like, you're not better than me. And I really wanted to make sure that everything that I learned those last year and a half, 2 years, I tried to hammer it in you guys as hard as I possibly could before, because it was a legacy, call it selfish if you want, but it was a brotherhood legacy that I just wanted to keep going.
Yeah.
And
Don't drop the ball.
Right. And so when Scott Union said I made you guys run, it was more like I was really big on technique. And you can't have a 20-pound deficit or more every play. You can show up the first play or so, but that third, fourth quarter, your technique got to kick in and you got to be consistent about it. And so, like I said, I'm just really proud of you guys because you guys did things that we never were able to do. You guys kept the winning streak alive, and you beat Notre Dame twice. I think the first time you beat Notre Dame, I literally was in Norfolk, and I was fucking crying outside like a little bitch. I was so happy, man. I was like, yo, these dudes, man. Yo. And I saw Ram out there, saw you out there. I'm like, yo, those are my guys. Right?
Yeah, his Superman.
I run outside my condo, and I'm screaming. I look like I'm crazy. It's like, yo, they did it.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Right there. Good stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, after that, man, the fleet was, war. I'm on an amphib. Again, I'm very fortunate. I had Shalimar Brazier, who was a standout corner for us. And my son has 2 godfathers, Amir Jenkins and Shalimar Brazier. And Amir was another integral part of my time at the Naval Academy, man. We talk every day, too. That's my dude. Shal was actually supposed to be up here today, but he got canceled. But I was on a ship with him and Jeff Charles is a basketball player at the Naval Academy. A few of the guys, Brad Tepper was, I think, class of 03. And so he was, I think, a running back, Naval Academy as well. So they were all on my ship on the amphib. It was great to have served with them. After that, I then left the amphib out of Norfolk, Second Fleet, and then I went to Yokosuka, Japan. So then I became a damage control assistant there. Just trying to decide whether I was gonna stay in or get out, but my why was to serve and then create opportunities for myself and my family, and I felt like I had unfinished business. So after I did my stint in Japan, I came back. I tried a lateral transfer from being a surface warfare into information warfare. So I was an operations officer at NSA, and Darren Turner, who's a Naval Academy grad, I think it was SES 2, and also on the chain gang. He's probably on the chain gang for you guys because he did chain gang for like almost 15 years.
Nice.
The down and distance, he moved the chains. That guy.
Yeah.
He gave an opportunity to be operations officer there. I was NSOC, National Security Operations Desk Coordinator and Operations Officer. And so I got a chance to really get immersed in the information warfare community. tried a lateral transfer. That didn't work out. I'm sure you know. You're a Marine, so may not have known, but the Navy has multiple communities, and each community has, their milestone requirements, and then all these other things that they want you to meet. But more importantly, they're trying to focus on, retention. And so I wasn't unable to transfer into information warfare. And then eventually I just said, you know what? I knew if I took my next tour, I was gonna do 20. That was 8.5 years at this point. And so it was like, if I take this department head tour, I'll be at 12 years. Usually always get delayed. So I was at 13, and I'm gonna finish up. So the goal for me was always to create opportunities for myself and my family. I'm really big on, there's always a faith component. I pray every day. Family is everything, and service. How I provide for my family, how I provide for my country, how I show up. And so when I got out of the Navy, it was like, all right, what's next? And again, Naval Academy is a great place to be from. I was able to use my GI Bill. Pretty much exhausted that. At the time I got my master's in science in systems, MS, master's in systems, John Hopkins, and then further along down the line, I used the remainder to get my MBA from UVA. But I went into consulting right out of NSA, and I learned a lot, and I realized just how well the Naval Academy prepared me for the world. The work ethic, the attention to detail, dancing circles around my peers in terms of getting things done and executing. And so I wanted to start a family, right? I'd met my, like a lot of us, I met my wife, my ex-wife, at my first duty station. And, we try to figure it out. So then what else happened after that? I was consulting PwC, also known as Guidehouse. And then what else happened after that?
What were you consulting on? Anything specific or just a wide range of stuff?
Mostly like information warfare.
Okay.
A lot of I'm trying to find a way to say this without incriminating things. So I was supporting the NSA, but as a consultant.
Okay.
But now I'm being paid from private industry, right?
Gotcha.
And it was like, okay, cool. Like, this is fun. But then, I had my son, and getting him here really changed my life, right? Because he was born through IVF, and through that process, he came into the world with some challenges. He's doing well now, but literally through the grace of God, he is here and healthy. He had 2 surgeries in utero, so in my ex-wife's stomach, and it was like a specialty procedure. It's still very rare, but again, man, like Darren Turner, Admiral Smith, John Hunt, my partner, my partner at PwC, like they were there to support me. And then again, the Navy paid for all this, right? They allowed me to continue to work and get things, provide for my family, but also be there because I was traveling a lot too, as this was going on. I'm a consultant. And, he came in the world. He had like a surgery within 48 hours, and he had this thing called congenital diaphragmatic hernia. So it's like where there's a lining that keeps your intestines down from coming into your chest cavity. And so that he had a hernia as a whole that was not keeping that separation. And so they had to go in his mother's womb, into his trachea, through his throat, put his like specialty balloon in there that created pressure to push his stomach down. And then when he was born, they put like this little patch, like a Kevlar patch, to keep that separation. And the reason why that was so important is because when in the womb, he's breathing through the umbilical cord. He's breathing through his mom.
Yeah.
But when he comes into the world, he would have to breathe on his own, and your diaphragm expands and contracts. Well, because his diaphragm was able to expand, he would pretty much suffocate to death. And so that balloon created enough pressure to push his intestines down, just enough for him to be able to breathe on his own when he was born, and then they intubated him, and then he had surgery. And so, given, and as God would have it, man, again, faith. There happened to be a doctor from Brazil that had, was like the foremost physician in this specialty, and a Nigerian doctor who were teaching fellows at Texas Children's Hospital. And so he got it, and then 4 months later he re-herniated. At this point, they had like medically moved us from Houston, because he had to be born in Houston, and I was living here in Maryland, to Johns Hopkins, and then he re-herniated, and then they had another doctor who had trained under them who fixed them again. And so that really put things in perspective for me. I was really on this whole like go getter, I got this plan, I'm gonna make it happen.
Sure.
With that, and losing some people I've served with and just people that I care for, put things in perspective. I was like, yo, like, what are you doing it for? And it really helped me compartmentalize. Like, I go hard when I go hard, but when I'm with family, like, I'm really relishing these moments. So yeah, I forgot where I was at.
That's a heck of a story, man. I bet I don't know anybody that's gone through something like that. That's unique.
Yeah, man. But I the grace of God, right? And when I say I put things in perspective, like I was tracking, I was a new manager, and the money was looking good, and all this other stuff. But then I was like, you know what? Like, I have to be here. And so, as luck would have it, I was supporting both private and at this point, I'm supporting like Department of State, Veterans Affairs, Unilever. So that's like public sector, and then private sector was like Unilever, like Dove soap, Lipton tea type stuff, Comcast, things like that. But I was like, yo, I can't work these 15, 16-hour days. Like, this is not it.
Yeah.
So one of my clients who became a former mentor of mine, he was like, yo, he was a colonel. Mike Austin was a colonel in the Army. And he was like, he had kind of brought up the, going into public sector. And I was like, you know what? I should look into it. And so I ended up trying to get a job at the Department of State. Their process took way too long. But while I was in the system, I got flagged from a bunch of different government, public sector entities. And I'm taking a job at the IRS as a, program manager. And it's like 20 minutes from the house. And how I was working on the ship and how I was working in NSA and I was working as a consultant, like, this was like, man, this is nothing. I got to give 8 to 10 hours a day and then I get to do what I want. Like, oh, let's go.
Yeah.
What? And so time would have it. And, he was getting good. He's getting great. And again, Naval Academy work ethic, attention to detail. I got promoted pretty fast. I went from like a junior 14 to a senior 15 in like 4 years. And then, I was like, well, I always wanted to stay sharp. Like I feel like if you're not growing, you're dying. And so I went back, got another degree, right? Just to kind of stay up to date to industry, right? No, nothing against the government, but each entity is different. And some of them are not as fast in their transitions to certain methodologies or industry practices as others.
True.
So I always wanted to grow. And plus, the thing is, I don't know if I already mentioned this, up until I want to say a decade ago, there were only 6 Akingbemis in the United States. and I have a large family in Nigeria. And so my dad's whole goal was to get people here, get his family here. And I kind of inherited that goal. And so a decade ago, my uncle, my dad's youngest brother, was able to bring his family of 6 here. And they're all doing well. One to graduate from Harvard to med school. The one, all full ride guys, right? Harvard
Nice.
full ride, Yale full ride, Princeton full ride. You know,
Doesn't surprise me based off your story.
right? And so I was always like, okay, I have the skills to be successful here, but I'm not necessarily maximize my potential. Now that my son's out of the weeds and he's 10 now,
Awesome.
like, all right, let's get to it. And so about a year and a half ago, I started a consulting business, Atlas Trident, and I want my goal to become my full time. So I've been fortunate enough to have some contracts with some entities. I've signed some NDAs, but it's doing well.
Good.
It's doing well.
Who else could be a customer out there?
Huh?
Who else could be a customer for Atlas Trident Consulting?
Whoever needs digital transformation, website modernization, program management stuff, let me know.
Awesome.
I'm here. Software development, I got it. Those are my service offering. So if
I had a question written down. What sparked your interest into doing that? But I think you answered that one as well.
I just always knew, like, when I was on the ship, and I think I told you guys this too, when I was at NAPS, I was like, look, we all have a sense of duty, right? We want to be the ones who go first to defend our country. And being willing to pay the ultimate price, make sure that you get also the things that you can transition you out of the military. I saw firsthand, especially at NSA, while I was like going through my security clearance process, a lot of people were coming in and out. So I was at Fort Meade, and Fort Meade's a joint base. And so all different branches of the military. And a lot of people that were, either waiting to finalize their polygraph adjudication process and or transitioning out of the military. And while I was doing that for about 2 months before I became the operations officer in the building, in the cleared space, I was the support operations officer managing that process. And I saw a lot of like decorated officers and soldiers and sailors transition out and not know what to do or how their skill sets could transition into civilian life.
Yeah. And
I also saw that just, again, being from Los Angeles, you see a lot of veterans, because Long Beach was right there. It used to be a pretty big base. In fact, that's where I enlisted before I came to NAPS, who were just trying to figure it out. And I'm like, you serve your country, you have these skill sets, but your skill sets are only used for the military, right? And so make sure that, yes, you have a sense of duty, but understand that there is life after the military. And make sure that you study things and acquire skill sets that are transitional. If not, then you're only hurting yourself and your future family. And so, yeah.
Good stuff. All right. A few more questions. First of the three is, what's your biggest failure? Or one of them. One where, I screwed up on this, or, man, should have done it this way, or, man, I learned a lot out of this experience.
I think
when I say failure, it means lesson.
Yeah, because I see them all as lessons. I think my biggest lesson is more so personal in the sense that, like, how can I say this? I'll try to frame it this way because I didn't really expect this question.
Yeah, sorry about that.
For me, one thing that and I talk to my parents about this all the time. It's funny the conversations you have with your parents when you're an adult and you have kids of your own versus when you're a child, right?
Yep.
And for those unfamiliar with the Nigerian culture, like your parents are pretty much second to God, right? So you listen to it's more of an obedience to understanding, and then you go from there. But for me, I was very academically and physically, even financially, mature at a younger age. Skip some grades, all the other things, all the stuff. But emotionally, I was not there because it just wasn't a thing. Like relationships, I didn't see the value or understand the value in relationships. And that's something I regret at the Naval Academy. Although we were, preparing for war, you're the big football player walking around who supposedly gets all these extra privileges, even though you're working 2 to 3 times harder than any other midshipman. I think that in addition to some of us being ostracized from the brigade, I think I also added in secluding myself from them as well.
Okay.
And I wish that I had sought out relationships. Don't get me wrong, I have some really strong relationships with midshipmen or fellow classmates that are not football or not didn't play a sport. But I do think that if I had been more receptive instead of in survival mode, like a lot of us were at the time, who knows?
Yep. No, that's a good one. I like that one. All right. How about the biggest struggle that you're kind of working through today?
I think the biggest struggle I'm on today is just really, it goes back to faith, family, service, man. I'm always just trying to grow. And I really want to be in a place where I can do whatever the fuck I want to do. And I say that, the emphasis on that, because the same thing I think I told, you guys there, like, put yourself in a position where you can make the decisions that you want to make when you want to make them. And so as a family man, it's like, all right, I want to be able to take off at 1:00 and do what the hell I want to do. Right. My dream job would be to travel the world and then coach football. That's it.
Yeah. On your own terms.
Yep. Have a company in the background that is generating, income, not revenue, income, and do what I want. And so I really want to get to that place.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I like it. It's kind of on my horizon too, just trying to figure out how to get there. Last one. What's your price of admission?
So much has happened since then, man. I'd say shedding of one's old self, being agile. I think that me, and I think for a lot of us who get very regimented in how life's supposed to go, I think that for me, I think I may have lost opportunities or not understood the value of opportunities because I was reluctant to grow. And so for me now, it's like the price of admission was being able to have a mental toughness, but also open-mindedness to transition. Right. And so when I think about how I was raised to then going to the Naval Academy and interacting with people that I would probably never interact with on my own, right? And developing lifelong relationships, I look back and say, damn, like that would never have happened if I wasn't open to it. Transitioning different careers, industries, family, like just being able to be malleable is huge. It's huge. And so I think just growing in that regard is the price of admission for me.
Cool. You said your sons were living with you?
Yeah. I got custody of him. So he's with me every day. He's outside in the room. He's peeked his head in a little bit.
Well, tell him thank you for your
Yeah.
time tonight. I know how precious it is and how busy you are. So really good episode. I always enjoy doing these, and this one was definitely a special one. A special few different takeaways that, are a little bit different. So I like it. Yeah, really appreciate the time and appreciate you getting on.
Thanks. I kind of wanted to we'll let it go. Because I want to make sure that the incoming class or just the future players understand that you're doing it not only for service of country, but you're doing it for you and for your teammates. Understand that. Identify what your goals are and stay true to them. There are going to be so many different people, so many different obligations, so many different standards.
Distractions, yeah.
And that's what they are. And it wasn't until I got moved out of that company and was able to just kind of be a legitimate student athlete that I was able to shut down the noise. And I remember even on the football field where it was like the game just slowed down. None of this other stuff mattered. All I heard was Coach Green, Jeremy Chase, Jeff Vanek, Levon Kelly, Bobby, Lane. They could be yelling and all. I just heard those voices. And that's all that fucking mattered. That's it. And so identify your tribe, identify your goals, and hold true to them.
Sham wow.
Yeah.
It's a good way to close it.
Thanks, man.
All right. Cool. Well, great talk.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Hopefully my comments on PJ don't ripple anything.
I don't think you can. Guy's got tough skin. Thick skin.
You kind of sensitive. He's pretty sensitive and spiteful. Who knows? We've all grown.
Yeah. All right.
All right, man.